Well, Friday we had the jobs report, so let's talk about is AI impacting the labor market because the headlines look concerning as February payrolls showed a loss of 92,000 jobs in the month. This was well below the estimate that was looking for a gain of 50,000 jobs in January. January's reading was actually 126,000 jobs, but January's reading was revised down by 4,000, while December, this was pretty bad, saw a major negative revision of 65,000 jobs and now shows a loss of 17,000 jobs in the month. I was banging my head against the wall trying to figure out what happened in December that they actually had to go, that they lost 65,000 jobs.
We talked about this a lot last year, and, Trump ended up laying off the Bureau of Labor Statistics head there because of the inconsistency in the labor data, and they need to get something that's more reliable. And I understand it's got to be tough, right? You're collecting a ton of data here, but I mean, to have the amount of revisions to the magnitude that we're seeing, it is a little bit concerning, and I think sometimes makes people question the accuracy of the data and how much can you trust this loss of 92,000 when maybe in 2 months it's all of a sudden, well, it was only a loss of 10,000.
Yeah.
It's tough to trust this data when there's just been so many changes.
And I try to tell people, you can't look at it month to month. I mean, you've got to look at it over time and take things with salt. Listen to what we're saying, because there's things there's going to be in here. And I know you want to talk about the healthcare employment, because I was surprised on that one, but then I wasn't.
I mean, the thing you have to understand is it's just been such a stable force in the employment situation, but it actually showed a decline of 28,000. Again, that's healthcare employment in the month of February. This was largely due to, again, you got to understand the numbers. A strike that occurred at Kaiser Permanente that sidelined 30,000 workers. And I saw them on the side of the road every time I left Fox 5 KUSI down. And like, gosh, they're out there again, huh? But the thing you have to know is that now the strike has been resolved. So this should be a big benefit in the March data, because you'll get that 30,000 coming back in. Another important factor to remember was the severe weather that likely had an impact on hiring across all sectors in the month. Now, living here in San Diego, we forget about this, but you remember the pictures, and it was freezing. You had major snowstorms. I had, family in Charlotte, North Carolina. They said basically the grocery stores, the restaurants, they were all closed for a few days. So that could have also had a pretty big impact on the labor situation.
And I grew up in upstate New York, and I remember those snowstorms, and just things shut down. If you go somewhere, you drive 15 miles an hour because the roads are filled with snow. You can't get past. You got accidents. It shuts down for a few days, so that it could be part of it as well. But the federal government did continue to show declines as payrolls declined by 10,000 in the month, and since reaching a peak in 2024, I love this, the federal government employment is down by 330,000 jobs, or 11%. Gosh, the government is trying to finally save some money as opposed to spending so much money. Looking specifically at sectors that could be impacted by AI, information saw a decline of 11,000, and the industry has lost an average of about 5,000 jobs per month over the prior 12 months. While this looks concerning, I do believe part of this is due to AI. I think a lot of the decline is due to the normalization after the rapid hiring post-COVID that led to bloated employment and waste at many companies. I remember companies saying, we don't need people, but we got to get people before there's no people to get. And they just overhired.
Yeah, I know, like Wells Fargo as an example, I think they've now had 22 straight quarters of decline in employment. Wow. That's before this AI craze started. So I think this bloated employment is now not even AI in many cases. It's like, oh, shoot, we were paying people to do nothing in our company. So maybe we should normalize to drive profits higher, not really having a huge impact from AI. It's just like an overemployed situation. Another sector, though, that could be impacted by AI / I'm going to say more likely robots is transportation and warehousing in particular. This sector declined by 11,000 jobs in February, but a good chunk of the job loss occurred in couriers and messengers, which fell by 17,000. And I don't know about you, but I'm still not seeing robotic delivery trucks out there. So again, I think this could be due to normalization or the weather, because you can't have a robot replace those truck drivers just yet. Now, you could have maybe more efficient logistics situations or systems that allows for less drivers. But again, I think this is an over-embellishment of maybe how robots and AI are impacting things. And, Jim Cramer says some good stuff, but he was talking about, oh, this is it. This is the start of the AI replacing jobs. And I looked at him like, I'm still just not really seeing that. But if you look at transportation in particular and warehousing, it has declined by about 157,000 jobs. That's 2.4% since reaching a peak in February 2025.
From what I've been reading, I do believe there's a lot of robots in the warehouses moving
Yep.
packages around. But I think myself and other people get very scared about, because I think these big trucks or the UPS big truck, I think they're like 10 tons. It's just scary to see 10 tons of metal going down the road with no one behind the wheel. It's kind of a frightening thing. I think that's years away.
Well, and what's going to happen when they get to your house? Are they just going to throw the package out the back of the truck? I mean, they need somebody to take it out, or I guess have a robot in there to drive it down and put on your front door. I mean, there's still question marks around a lot of that.
Well, remember a couple of years ago we talked about, not a couple of years, a couple of weeks ago we talked about the drones, how they're dropping packages. Well, they could drop it where your dog gets it or drop it in the pool and everything. So they don't have that down yet, and I don't know if they will get that down anytime soon. But many of the other major sectors like construction, manufacturing, professional and business services, and leisure and hospitality, well, they saw little change in the month. Overall, there was definitely not much strength in the report. It's important to remember that the employment rate is still healthy at 4.4%. That is such a low rate, and it's been there for quite a while. It's hard to get that much lower. So I'm still not overly concerned about the labor market. With that being said, as I kind of said a little bit earlier, it is definitely worth watching coming months because things will change, and you can't, one set of data does not make it. You've got to keep watching the data because it could be all over the board.
Yeah, and I think, again, we talk a lot about how people are worried about AI replacing jobs. And yeah, as we said, there's definitely been an improvement of productivity. So there has been maybe some job loss, but there hasn't been that mass replacement. And I think that is still many, many years away. I think currently the bigger problem that we have is we might not have enough workers over the next couple of years. The U.S. has a current workforce of about 171 million people, but it's estimated that 12% more people will turn 65 in 2026. And it's also estimated that about 6.3 million people will retire out of the workforce as well.
And we also have to keep in mind that the restrictions on immigration are taking more people out of the workforce. There's still legal migration coming to the United States, but it does take time to become a citizen. Looking at the numbers, the loss of the workforce from people retiring will have a greater impact than the loss of illegal immigration. People don't think about people retiring, the baby boomers.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. I think it is something that could create a lot of problems, but, we'll have to keep our eye on it. And even not to mention people turning 65 because homes, stocks, things have done so well over the last few years. People could be retiring in the late 50s because of asset price appreciation. That could even put more strain on the workforce as well. The other thing we talk about here is in 2025, average payrolls grew by 15,000 a month. So it was a lighter year in terms of job growth. But it's important to understand if we have more people exiting the workforce, the number of jobs that must be created to keep unemployment consistent is a lower number. One area, though, that consistently comes up with a shortage is healthcare, especially when you consider the ratio of healthcare workers to those that are 65 or older. It is estimated that over the next 5 to 10 years, with the population getting older, the healthcare sector could be adding 50,000 jobs a month. So if you're, 18, 19 years old and want to have maybe some job security, healthcare might be the place for you.
Yeah, now this information does come from our website, our newsletter. Go to our website, smartinvesting2000.com. Again, that's smartinvesting2000.com. Sign up for the newsletter. You get all this information plus more.